Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to do a documentary-style review of a completed market DNA cycle for the S&P 500. We'll look at the initial plan, watch how the market actually moved, and then compare the two. The specific cycle we're looking at today is identified as SP 500_4_4. Here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the blueprint, the initial plan set out in Phase 1. Then we'll follow the actual path it took, and trust me, it had a few surprises. After that, we'll see how it all wrapped up in Phase 4. And finally, put the plan and the outcomes side by side for a direct comparison. Let's get right into it. So just to be super clear, our goal here is to be completely objective. Think of us as historians. We're not here to predict, analyze, or interpret anything. We're simply replaying the tape, laying out the recorded data and the sequence of events exactly as they occurred. All right, let's dive into Phase 1. This is where all begins. Think of this as the game plan, the entire setup, and all the key parameters that were locked in before the cycle even started. So, the official kickoff was on February 17th, 2026. On the chart, you can see the entry point clearly marked by the letter M. That's our starting line. Now for the nitty-gritty, the core numbers that defined the strategy. The mean entry price was pegged at $67.25.53. The planned time window, what the model calls trapezoid time, was set for 30 days. A key risk metric, the third triangle domain, was calculated at 3.86%, and the overall risk coefficient was set to 2. These were the core variables driving the whole plan. To make this all concrete, this case study is based on a hypothetical capital of $100,000. Now, the plan had a built-in safety net, an expected maximum drawdown of 5%, which comes out to $5,000. This is a critical number because it's what ultimately determines the position sizing. So, you're probably wondering how all those pieces come together. Well, the model's methodology is very specific, and I'll read it to you directly. Both trade sizes are calculated using the hypothetical capital, the investor's maximum allowed drawdown, the third triangle domain percentage, the risk coefficient, and the contract size. All right, what about the exit strategy? The plan had 3 very distinct price targets. The first one, T1, was set at $67.98. The next level, T2, was designated as a safe exit at $69.09. And the final goal, T3, which represented a full exit from the trade, was way up at $7,015. Okay, so that was the plan on paper. But as we all know, the market rarely moves in a straight line. This is where the story gets really interesting because the cycle did not follow the standard 1, 2, 3, 4 progression. It took quite a detour. Get this. Literally the very next day after the cycle started, the price shot up and hit the point labeled Apex N on the chart. And just like that, Phase 3 of the cycle was completed. You heard that right. Phase 3 actually finished before Phase 2 even began, completely flipping the expected order of events. Then, after that surprise jump, the price pulled back, and 6 days later, on February 24th, it dipped down to touch what the model calls the delayed mirror. That event finally marked the completion of Phase 2. So just to recap this unusual timeline, the cycle went from Phase 1, leaped ahead to Phase 3, and then looped back to complete Phase 2. After that pretty wild journey through the phases, we finally arrive at the cycle's conclusion, Phase 4. On April 15th, the whole process came to an end. The price climbed up and reached the top of the trapezoid, hitting that original T3 full exit target of $7,015. And with that, the cycle was officially complete. So what was the bottom line? After all was said and done, the total realized profit for this hypothetical scenario was $2,018. All right, now for the moment of truth. How did the initial plan, the one we laid out in Phase 1, actually stack up against the final reality? Let's put the numbers right next to each other and see. This table really tells the whole story. First up, the return came in at 2.02%, which was just a little shy of the 2.27% target. But here's the interesting part. Look at the risk. The actual maximum drawdown was only 3.66%, which is significantly better than the 5% they had planned for. Now, the trade-off seems to be time. The cycle took 57 days to complete, nearly double the planned 30-day window. So less risk, slightly less return, and it took longer to play out. And that's a wrap on our documentary of this particular market cycle. If you're interested in exploring more of these data-driven case studies, you can find a lot more documentation over at marketdnaedge.com. And before we go, we have to cover a few very important disclaimers. This content is for documentation purposes only. It is not financial advice. The model shown prohibits using leverage above 10, and as always, you should never invest essential funds that you can't afford to lose. Thanks for watching.